Welcome to the Air Power Airwaves, the Air Power Manufacturing Solutions podcast series where we talk about manufacturing issues that impact you. Hey, this is Travis Stirewalt. Welcome to another Air Power Airwaves podcast. Just know that today has been 2 years in the making.
It has been.
Yeah. We've tried to do this podcast a couple of years ago, and it was a scheduling nightmare for both of us. So we're glad to have you here. Tom Gondi.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Kyle.
Good to see you again, Travis.
Man, we filmed more today than we have ever.
I've tried for a year to stay out of here.
Well, you failed miserably because you got 2 times in one day.
Thank you.
All right, so Tom Gondi is with Southern Market Share. We're going to be going through some of their products today, talking about their company and talk about Tom a little bit. Kyle, you are the sales and marketing leader with Air Power. So what we're doing right now with the podcast falls under your realm, and glad to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so let's talk about something. Who is Southern Market Share?
We are a manufacturing sales agency, and we represent a couple handfuls of manufacturers to the distribution marketplace, and we partner up with Air Power to take our products to market to the end users.
How many, you don't have to be specific, but roughly how many product lines do you represent?
Yeah, we have 16 different manufacturers that
Okay.
we're working with now.
And some of those are multiple lines of products.
Yeah, multiple lines of products, but they're all synergistic to the same audience, and we focus in 3 main areas.
Okay, so for us, that's important because we have somebody that knows those products way better than we do.
Absolutely. And we love working with Tom.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you though, Tom, so 16 total, that's a lot. If you had to say 5 that really take Southern Market Share, who it is, would you boil those down to 5?
Yeah, we can. The 5 that would define us would be, first off, Presto Lift, a manufacturer of lift tables and ergonomic positioning equipment. We also have a line of modular implant offices, which is more just like an office inside of a building, a shipping, receiving area, a lunchroom, a break room type product offering. We have a guardrail product line, which again is in facilities, that they protect the areas around the perimeter of a building or protect equipment. And we have Quantum that does storage bins, which is another really good line for us. And then we have Matta, which does anti-fatigue matting
Okay.
for standing areas.
And I know we're going to be talking about quite a few of those here just shortly.
I didn't realize you had 16 though. That was new to me.
Yeah, we do.
I ask a lot of our guests this, who is Tom Gondi? Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did this whole journey for you start?
Yeah, so I'm an accountant by training. So it started in the accounting department for a small lift table manufacturer out of school. And so I've been in the material handling world since '93. So my first job was a staff accountant and moved into sales and then moved into marketing for Presto Lifts. And then 20 years ago, this year, we started Southern Market Share. Myself moved down to the southeast and formed a rep agency with Presto support. So we have a lot of loyalty to Presto as well as hopefully they do.
Very awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done some short videos on the Presto lift here in our finishing lab, or not finishing lab, our tool lab or assemble lab, and it's pretty cool. James Stanley did a good job on that one.
The Southern Market Share is 20 years.
20 years old now.
Wow, okay.
Yes.
Where are you from originally?
I grew up in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, just left Texas after college and ended up in South Florida, and that's where I found my job at the lift table manufacturer.
Okay, so you're a Cowboys fan still?
I am a Cowboy fan still.
Yeah.
Yes. I know, I'm sorry. To half the world.
I just drank bourbon out of a Cowboys bourbon glass that's made in Italy that was bought by Jerry Jones and given to Lee Greenwood, who I know that family really well.
Okay.
And so I was able to buy a glass that Jerry Jones bought, the same glass that he drinks out of at every game.
No kidding.
It's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
That just happened last weekend. Good timing. My mom's a Dallas girl.
Oh, is she?
Garland.
Oh,
In the Garland
close
area.
to Garland. Not to go down that path, though.
All right, so we talked about some things long before we were going to film this podcast, and one of those was some things that you consider yourself an expert in, and that we consider you an expert in. One of those was helping guide people in solving their customers' problems.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that a little bit because that's what Air Power is all about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I consider myself to be the local expert for all 16 of these manufacturers. So my goal is to not just tell you to call the factory ever. It's to take you and walk you through that process. And that process can be from the conception, where you talk about it, you deal with it, and then you come in and you take a look at the application or the issue, and then you design a solution around it. And then walk you all the way through to the installation. Now, we don't install. You guys have the teams that take care of the installation, but we're there to support you at that phase. Because we know if you don't install something at the end of the day properly, it's not going to work out well for your customer.
One of the things Travis and I talked about earlier was process collaboration. And that's really what our salespeople do with you. So we find a problem, we need a solution, and so you're the extension of the manufacturer. So we call you in and we collaborate to form the solution.
Yeah, and the other great thing about being a multi-line rep is when we're looking at solving a problem, we may look at one area, but we can bring other products into it as well that a factory guy that works directly for a manufacturer isn't able to do because he has one product line.
Okay.
So if we're talking, lift tables, we may talk guarding around it, other products along those lines.
There was one other thing that we listed together that you were an expert in, and that is work. It was work cell optimization. And I know we're going to get into that, so do we just want to kind of move through? Because we're going to be talking about that. So I know you guys pride yourselves on something, and that is concept through installation. Where does that start?
Yeah, it starts with a simple phone call from one of your sales guys or an email. Hey, can you help me with this? And then we'll take a look at it. And sometimes it's just a product you have to supply, but anyone can do that. Where we excel is where we can go, how can we optimize what you're trying to do and design a system around that? And
who better? You see so many applications of the products that you specialize in, so you're going to see that.
Where's y'all's range, Gondi? Like how far north, south?
Yeah, so I cover from Virginia down to Florida and Tennessee and Alabama, so the southeast. So it's a total of 7 states.
Okay.
But we've actually worked with your guys up in the Northeast as well, because you guys continue to grow. We're getting phone calls from the people that support that area, and we're willing to help them out.
Yeah. We always pass Gondi's name over.
And that's a good portion of our footprint, with Air Power. That's at least, 2/3 of our footprint?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're like Pennsylvania, New York to Florida, all the way out to Mississippi. We creep a little bit over, and we've done some stuff in Colorado, Texas, Louisiana as well.
Yep. Mexico.
Yeah, Mexico. Yeah. We have a team in Kentucky right now as well.
Yep. That's right, we do.
We do.
All right, so let's talk about the key products. Let's go down through the key products that we listed out. If you want me to lob these, we'll lob them. That way we keep them in order.
Yeah, do that.
Okay, so lift tables.
Lift tables.
They're great. Everybody needs them.
Lift table. This is a lift table.
I believe you.
Does it lift?
I can lift it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got a hydraulic.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Very
cool.
cool.
We can do stand-up presentations with it.
You didn't buy it for me.
It's on that end. No, this came from my place. Carts.
Well, let me summarize it. We focus in 3 areas. When I look at the lines we've got, it's 3 general areas where stuff is being assembled and made. Mm-hmm. That's the first area. And actually, that's my background. You think of lift tables, stuff's being made, processes are being put together. Then we focus some on storage and the movement of product in facilities. So that could be some carts that don't elevate up, but you just push them around a facility, but bins to store them in and products like that. Then the third area is facilities. So that would be your modular offices, your guardrail. You guys have sold some of our SOPR soft wall partitioning to enclose dust areas and even some areas that have fumes. We don't want those fumes rolling throughout the facility. So those are the 3 key areas that we'll focus on, and all of our lines will kind of touch into those.
Okay.
3.
Maybe we should just leave it there.
Yeah, maybe we should. you either planned that or you did a really good job. All I heard was
Exactly.
assemble, move, and coat, right? So if you're a manufacturer and you assemble, move, or coat, you probably have a solution for them within that space.
Somehow that lines with you guys well, huh?
It's pretty amazing.
We'll pay you later, Tom.
I wasn't expecting
I really
that.
wasn't
As you were
planned
saying it,
well.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Promise you I didn't plan that.
So let's talk about how Southern Market Share and Air Power work together with their customers, and when we have a work cell environment situation. Like, where does that start? Account manager obviously is in the facility.
Yep. So it started at the account manager level. So we walk in and let's say Travis, you're a manufacturer, right? And let's say you're going to make, I don't know, engines. Well, you got to have a workspace for your operator to build those engines.
Right.
And so our account managers would go in, would see a need, and now we need a solution. And so at that point is when we would call in Tom to be like, all right, I've got a manufacturer named Travis who's going to build engines, and we need to start building some workbenches. We need to customize this space. And I think, Tom, you said you designed the work cell around the operator.
Yes.
And so that's really where we call Tom in to start that process.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we want to start with that operator because he or she's performing the task and make it so it's convenient, comfortable, and easy for them to do their job throughout the day.
And then if we're designing a work cell, what would be like the 3 things you would look at to optimize that work cell for an operator?
Yeah, and that's really how our companies have aligned well is we take a look at the workbench that you're building on and what you're assembling and putting together. We look at what you're standing on, and we're looking at the products that are being fed into you and how they're being fed into you and placed around you.
So we talked about, when we do a lot of prep, just so the people out there know, there's so many things that we talk about in a podcast that we would be doing everybody a disservice if we didn't go through it ahead of time and kind of massage the data that we need to deal with. And we came up with a really good list of steps that we go through when analyzing that as a let's call it as a team with our 2 companies when we're working with a customer. Because the customer ultimately is going to get the benefit of, more eyes on a project than just somebody's best idea. So one of those was reduction of footsteps.
Yes.
Okay. That's actually just a physical, the more you have to walk, the more time wasted.
Yeah, move less, work more.
Move less, work more. Optimize the carts in the workspace. I know a conversation that's come up before when we were talking was horizontal or vertical versus horizontal.
Yeah.
Because horizontal, you're taking up more floor space, more room, and every square foot in a facility, there's a cost associated with it. So we go narrow, go high, and increase profitability. Bring the work to the worker. Lift table brings heavy loads to the employee to their height.
Yep.
The less physical impact on the employee. Obviously, those work-related injuries are not cheap. That therefore reduction of work-related injuries. And turntable puts the load in front of the worker with rotation. Move less time wasted, increases value, and foot comfort and ergonomics.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that kind of covers that, looking at that in a broad spectrum there.
When it's all about efficiency.
Absolutely.
You just want manufacturers to be the most efficient.
Correct.
And so, like to your points, though, like Tom and I both have been in plants, and you see an operator who's working at a work cell, and they turn and they take 10 steps to get to a part or some sort of dunnage, right? And then they might have to walk around the dunnage in order to grab the piece they need, and then they walk back around and back to their part. And you just sit there and you kind of scratch your head, and it's like, it's not a big deal. It's 15 steps. But what happens if we make it 10 steps? How much more efficient could we be? Or how do we make it 5 steps? How much more efficient could we be? And then how does that work with like throughput of parts and then outflow of product from your plant?
Yeah, you got 300 parts a day times 15 steps.
It adds up.
It adds up.
And simple stuff like taking, if the customer's already got a lift table, it takes, I don't know, it depends on your step count, right? But 10, 15 steps maybe to walk around your lift table. Well, if you just put like a Lazy Susan type top, just spin it. You can reduce steps really easily, which is time and time's efficiency.
And anyone who's had to pick up heavy weights on a regular basis or heavier items, on a regular basis, and you have to bend over and pick it up
Constantly.
off of a pallet. It's great when you first get the pallet because everything's like up here, right? And you're like, hey, no problem, though. Everything starts to suck the lower you get.
Yeah.
Being able to have something like a Presto lift where you're bringing that to you
Yes.
is such a relief to the operator. And that anytime you can improve physical relief to an operator, you're also improving the mental, the mental impact
Absolutely.
to those individuals. So
Yeah, towards the end of the day, they'll be more focused on
which is
assembling
like
what they're building.
one day is bad enough, but you got 5-6 days a week. And every day, at some point, you're going to have to go low on a pallet. And
It's a lot of bending.
okay, so I think what we should do now is kind of like a step one. Since we're going down the work cell, right? Let's build a work cell. Let's
Okay.
talk about that. Let's go through the processes of that and talk about the 3 key factors of building a work cell.
Yeah, the first thing we're going to look at is what are you putting together, and where are you doing it, and how are you doing it, and that starts with the workbench or the work area. So we'll come in and look, and we want to engage the operator as well, who's working in that area, to get their feedback because they know what they do better than anybody else, and
Right.
you can build them into the change that may be happening in front of them ahead of time. It softens that blow to them as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
What type of bit, I don't know the names of a lot of workbenches. Is there a certain brand or workbench that is better suited for an assembly type space?
yeah, so we work with Treston, and Treston manufactures ergonomic adjustable workstations and workbenches. And those benches can move up and down with the operator to put it at the right height for them to work at. There can be a fixed height if they want to. More and more operators are standing in the workplace and sitting. So if I'm 5'6" and the next operator is 6'2", you want to be able to adjust that height for the different operators.
Like hit a button and
Hit a button and have it go up, or a hand crank if
Very
the
cool.
budget calls for it. So
And that part presentation to operator was number 2.
yeah, and what we'll really look at though is in that work cell is what they're working with and not just on, because everyone focuses to what you're working on, but what you're working with are the tools, the sub-assemblies,
Okay.
everything
Yep.
that goes into what you're building, and we attempt to use the vertical space for that storage and tool balancers that hang from a rail bar over the light bar overhead, just really making that footprint smaller to start with.
I mean, even big operations with a fairly decent, process that I've been in where they have a decent table, that they, move the part onto to work on it, whatever they're doing, the small motor or whatever it is. The amount of stuff on that desk, one end to the other, yesterday's Coke can,
Yes.
the skull, on this end, and places there's no order to it. It's just kind of the way it's always been. Being able to narrow that down potentially where let's say on the table up in front of us there, the part would fit between the R and the W, right? There, and you got all this extra space, but they have nothing up there to be able to put things on, or nothing underneath to utilize that space.
Exactly.
And you've got things laid out everywhere. It just kind of pulls away from that process versus other facilities that I've been in where I recognize that, horizontal to vertical, where everything that they use is wired up and is in slots right in front of them, or other supplies are below them, nuts, bolts, whatever they need is all organized. And there's also somebody in the plant that's responsible for walking through each of the workstations to make sure that they have enough nuts, they have enough bolts, they have enough these rivets, whatever it is. So, yeah, organization is a massive.
So you teed me up for a story, Travis.
Good.
I got time for a story.
That's my job.
Okay. So first off, the guys feeding the back of the lines. I don't know how the term came about, but a lot of us, manufacturers, call them water spiders.
Okay.
I don't know where that came from, but I hear that term a lot. So just sidebar nugget. Secondly, you talk about every tool having a space, right? So we call on a lot of different industries, and one of the industries we call on has this term called FOD, foreign objects and debris, and it can't get within their product. If it gets within their product, it could be catastrophic.
Okay.
So we're not, if we think that is in the product, we can't let it exit the building.
Okay.
And so one of these manufacturers, when I went to, there was an operator who had got done completing this assembly, this widget, and there was FOD that they thought was in this. So his workbench was, like you said, it was really cluttered. And there was a screwdriver that was missing from his workbench. And so the facility had to assume that it was in that widget. And the only thing that they could do in order to make sure it wasn't was disassemble the whole thing.
I'm assuming this wasn't a big deal.
It was it was a very big
I'm
deal.
assuming it wasn't a small deal. It was a massive deal
It
because
was a massive deal.
anything that could conceal a screwdriver is going to be pretty big if you
big.
think about it. Mm-hmm. If you have a little motor, you can't hide a screwdriver in it. It's got
And at the end of the day, it wasn't about maybe the screwdriver being in it. It was the fact that it wasn't where it was supposed to be in his workbench. And so the organization had to assume that it was in the assembly. I mean, that could be a screw, it could be a bolt, it could be a lot of things that are supposed to have a home on the workbench that you don't want in the product. And but for this organization, not knowing where it was so catastrophic, tore all the way down, went back to stage one, had to rebuild the whole thing.
a lot of times those things have to do with like the impact to a human life.
It would have been catastrophic.
Okay, yeah, there we go. There we go. We've heard some interesting terms in this podcast suite. What was the other one, Jai, about fire, calling it a thermal event?
Yeah. Well, it gets hot. It's
Yeah,
thermal.
it gets hot. We've heard of thermal events too.
Where was the screwdriver?
Where was it? It was the screwdriver was in somebody's back pocket. Yeah.
Was it the employee?
It was the employee,
But not the one that was looking for it.
not the one that was looking for it.
But had they had a Treston
Oh.
workbench, right, they would have had it in a spot that it went
Yeah.
in, up on a board.
That's not cool.
No, not cool. It wasn't a good day for anybody.
All right. Well, thanks for that story.
You're welcome. It's a sidebar.
I'll put back the screwdriver. Hey, okay, so we're going to move from the actual physical workstation that we just talked about. I think we covered that pretty well, or the work cell. Let's talk about one of those things that pains everyone, and that is the floor.
It is. There isn't a place we don't walk into where people are standing that we can't ask somebody in that facility, what are you doing about your anti-fatigue matting? And they always shake their head and go, it's always a problem. It's always something we're addressing and working on
Yep.
in our facility.
My wife's a hairdresser, and that is the biggest thing for her. Like, literally,
Is this a new market we need to tap
we
into?
probably need
So.
to,
Okay.
because you can't get floor matting fast. You know, when you're a young hairdresser, she says, yeah, we were all wearing heels, and everybody's like trying to dress nicer than the other one next to you. And she goes, now I'm like, give me that stuff. I want to walk on a cloud in flat tennis shoes that are ergonomic and, crazy. I understand it. So how do you zero in on what's the right flooring for the application? What's the right floor matting?
Yeah, so there's different types of matting out there. Most people are using like a foam mat with a vinyl cover over it.
Okay.
And we have a line called Apache that has that type of a product. And that's your entry-level matting product. It's got a very short life. It's not designed for any life expectancy outside of 2 years typically. And it'll wear
cheaper?
out. It's more cost-effective.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is more
I
cost-effective.
feel like I need to raise my hand to ask a question. But I didn't know floor matting had a life expectancy.
It does. So,
Okay.
foam mats, which is like what we can throw a sample up here on the table. It's foam. It's got vinyl. When you step on it,
Touch
the ergonomics is coming from the softness. It compresses, and that's what makes somebody feel good about what they're standing.
And so over time, this breaks down.
It does, particularly if you
Yeah.
get oil or cutting fluids or any chemical on that type of a mat, it will break down over a period of time. But this is a really good mat from Apache for a dry work cell. But just understand that when you buy it, you're going to be replacing it after a period of time. So for most people, this seems to work well, but we do work with a lot of other customers who want to invest a little bit more in what they're standing on, or their employees are standing on, and we have another line called Milligan, which this is a much heavier duty type of mat.
Are you kind of going? Are you going good, better, best, or are you?
There's two levels.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
There's good and there's best.
There's good and there's best.
This
yeah.
doesn't look like it has any foam in it, though.
No,
Well,
there's no foam in that.
You
at
just
all.
get up and lift that up because there we go.
It's very heavy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But no foam.
Five.
No foam, so it's injected molded from recycled PVC. So it's a green product. So if companies have a green initiative, it's a great talking point.
Got an interesting, almost honeycombish or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
underneath.
we call those compression columns. So that's a 20-inch by 20-inch tile. And underneath each one, there's 144 compression columns. I compare that to shock absorbers on a car.
Okay.
When you step on it, they give, but they push you back up and keep you on top of the work surface. So a traditional employee who's used to the foam mat, which is what we see in the majority of manufacturing environments, they're going to step on the Matta product and they're going to say, wow, it doesn't feel as good. And what we have to explain to them is ergonomics is achieved over 8 hours, not 8 seconds. So give us some time, stand on our product, and what we're really doing is supporting the body a little bit better. The foam mat does support the body some, but the Matta product will support it even more.
No different than mattresses. There's some people that could never sleep on a soft mattress.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that gives or flexes because their bodies just can't handle that movement. There's other people that, you know, they can't sleep on a hard surface. They have to have more body contour. It's probably the same with feet.
Absolutely. And you bad knees, you bad back, your body needs support.
And the difference between standing on it, working at a work cell all day in one particular area versus the person who's got to walk. You know, I think about like even something out of our industry, like the plating industry. You've got large plating lines, barrel lines, and you've got that catwalk, right?
Right.
That walks the whole length. And those individuals are walking up and down that line all day, following process. So the wear on that's going to be different than the wear of somebody standing, and probably the impact for your feet.
Yeah, well, and in fact, fatigue is not as bad. When you're moving, your body's circulating blood flow in the legs, the movement of the body. That helps to reduce fatigue. It's when you stand and your blood pools in your leg, you don't have that circulation happening. That's where you'll start to feel the fatigue throughout the day.
So
And that's what these
that trussed-on workbench that we built vertically, operator, they need to stand on something.
they need to stand on something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when they're standing on the Matta product, those compression columns we spoke about, they're given and taking throughout the day. That's stimulating blood flow in the legs,
Okay,
reducing the fatigue.
that makes sense.
You might have said it. The first one you showed, entry-level product, had a life expectancy.
Of two.
Don't get it wet with chemicals. This Milligan product.
Yeah, the Milligan product's oil resistant. It's heat resistant up to 800 degrees. It's chemical resistant, cutting fluid resistant. The only product that we cannot put that mat into is brake fluid. Brake fluid will eat anything up, and that's
The big one.
the big one. Yeah, either one of them. Yeah, it would take this apart.
I'm not
real
sure
quickly.
standing in brake fluid would be good for anything.
No, and some people
or
do.
anybody.
No. Brake fluid has this terrible chemicals inside of it. But life expectancy from the Matta product, we warranty it for 10 years. Doesn't
Oh,
mean
wow.
that you throw it away after 10 years, but we give a 10-year warranty that's going to work the same, look the same, react the same in 10 years. Or we'll give you a new tile.
Okay.
It appears that it has a little bit of a lip, right? Because it's offset. We got when you go into a manufacturing plant, you have like the guarded areas or the yellow lines for trip hazards. I'm assuming we can attach ramp type segments.
We do. We have
Okay.
it's a 4-inch border
Oh, there we go.
that you can put on there for
I
transition.
really
on
did
and off
not
of.
know he had that below.
You'd be surprised.
I promise that was an honest question.
That really looks staged.
Yeah, it really did, and it was not 100%
But
not.
no, we do have a
This
yellow
goes on that.
border. It goes on the.
Is that more of an anti-trip hazard?
Well,
Or
it is an anti-trip hazard, so you're not tripping, but you don't want to put the border on the side that's butting up against the bench. You don't
Right,
need it.
right.
And then also, because of the way this product works and keeps you on top of the work surface, we can roll carts onto this mat.
Okay.
You
All
cannot
right.
roll a cart onto a foam mat.
Yep.
So
that's true.
now we can roll our production cart, a kitting cart, whatever that cart may be, into that work area for people.
Another question on the work cell. So we built a workbench cell. Is there a size guideline to how big a mat I need? Like let's say my workbench is 4 feet long. Do I only need a 4 foot long mat, or is there is there a 20% or factor?
It's no particular number. What you take a look at is the process.
Okay.
You know, like if it's a 4-foot bench and I'm never leaving this 4-foot area because everything is fed to me from behind, you can just do a 4 foot by 2 foot mat. But if I have to walk over to get something off of a lift table or off of a cart, then we might want to extend it a little bit more. But of course, we want to get everything nice and close to that workbench.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about step 3, and that's how parts are presented to the operator.
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so typically when you're manufacturing something, you got to have parts you're going to be putting onto it. And some of them are small, and we can put them up on the bench, and others are going to be much bigger. They're on a pallet, perhaps.
Right.
We always say with Presto, we bring work to the worker. So we're going to put that pallet on a lift table and elevate it up to the worker's height so that they don't have to bend over to pick up that product.
And a lot of that, I guess, is there's different sizes of that application, because you've got things that are, obviously the easy one is like with Presto, the unloading, loading, whatever. But there's also more complex situations of bringing a large workpiece. You look at cars, car manufacturing, which we're involved in. Automotive, they bring the whole car to you, and then there's little bits of bringing that to bringing the workplace to or workpiece to you, and there's a whole lot of work cell engineering that goes on there, possibly both sides of the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I'm a manufacturer, I want to update my work cells. What are my first steps? We talked about step counting and pallet positioners.
Yes.
So I just want to review those really quick.
Yeah, step count, ideal, right? We don't want the operator walking around the dunnage. We prefer to spin it.
Correct.
And then having it at the ideal height. Gondi, you brought up green initiatives. So I know with Presto, y'all offer electric.
We do.
Do you know what voltage phase?
Any voltage you want
Okay.
here in the U.S., yes.
You also offer pneumatic.
We do pneumatic as well.
And then the one that we really, really love is neither of those. So it's spring-based.
Yeah, there's a spring-based where as you add weight to something, it will work its way down, or as you take weight off, it will rise up. And those are self-leveling pallet positioners. And what's nice about that is it takes all the thought process away from the operator and puts it into the machine's hands. So the machine is automatically adjusting based on the weight of that full load. And of course, you set it ahead of time for your full load. And then the operator just has to do his or her job. It has a rotating top on it, so they can spin it around, stand in
So
one spot.
let's talk about that. I just want to go down,
Slick.
deep dive that real quick,
Yeah.
because I find that fascinating, the amount of things that I've picked up heavy from the floor. So let's say you have a pallet, and on that pallet are 10 cases.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's work it up here. Let's do 12. So you've got 4, 4, 4,
Okay.
right? And all the cases have the exact same product in it. The case comes to you, and it rolls onto let's call it Presto at this point, right? It comes off the conveyor line, or is loaded onto the Presto. And somebody has to take this and load that into something, or they're moving that product from there.
We're in work cell.
Yeah, and so the pallet comes in, loads on the Presto. It's down farther because obviously you need access to the top of it, right?
Correct.
So every time we know what a predetermined weight is for each one of these cases. So as I'm taking off 1, 2, and I got 2 left, I don't want it going up too high yet because I got to get to 3 and 4. So once 4 comes off, does it automatically move up now?
It's not quite that automated.
Okay.
It would be as you take so let's say your load is 1,000 pounds. You take a few 100 pounds off, and it's going to move up a little bit at a time.
Okay.
So it's almost imperceptible. You're talking. Let's just say we're talking a pallet load of batteries, and there's 50 batteries on a pallet, and you're pulling a battery off, and you're working the top layer, and you're spinning it around. The operator isn't even really going to see it go up.
Okay.
Because as they take it off, it's not like it just shoots up.
Is it kind of like a ratcheting thing, like on the,
No,
or is it?
There's 2 options. There's one where it's an airbag. You fill
Okay.
the bag based on your weight, and that becomes like your ballast.
Okay.
And the other is spring based.
All right.
But for someone that has like a serious green initiative, we don't have to run electric. We don't have to constantly run air, keep air plumbed. We either fill it once or we use the spring based system, and there's no trip hazard.
Yep.
So you can walk all the way around this thing and not fall.
We can bring it right here, set it up, and use it in this room.
Let's do it.
We can.
Do it.
You put it on this?
Right.
No, We'll put it on your lift table and see.
That's
how it
fine
holds
with
up.
me. All right. Anything else we want to cover? I think we've done a great job. You've been fantastic today.
That was great. So
That was
design
awesome.
works out. We use Treston, Milligon, Apache,
Presto.
and Presto.
Perfect.
3 key components.
All right, Tom.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much, man. I'm glad you made it in today. Kyle, thank you.
Good to see you again.
You've gone from none to 2 in one day. All right, so thank you for watching or listening to Air Power Airwaves podcast. What I will tell you is, if you have any questions for Tom Gondi or Kyle or about a product in general, maybe this floor matting here or work cell environments, there's only one phone number you need to call, 1-800-334-1001. If you want to see more about Southern Market Share and Tom Gondi or Presto or any of the other brands we've talked about, you can go to airpower-usa.com and go to our brands page, and there is a Southern Market Share link there. Is it Southern Market Share or Presto? Presto.
Yeah, probably each
And
individual
Treston.
brand. Yeah.
And
Okay.
Milligon.
Each of the individual brands.
Each individual brands.
So I invite you to do that. Anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And I'm going to close this out by saying what I always say: manufacture it a great day.
Thank you for joining the Air Power Airwaves podcast. Air Power Airwaves is a production of Air Power Inc. and Air Power Live Studios and is hosted by Travis Stirewalt. For more information, please visit airpowerairwaves.com. For more information on all of our products, brands, and manufacturing solutions, please visit airpower-usa.com. If you have any questions or need product support, please contact Air Power at 1-800-334-1001.